The Senate passes an energy exploration bill. The House endorses paying eugenics victims, and live card games are coming to the Cherokee Casino. The stories next.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
Hello, I'm Kelly McCullen. Thanks for watching North Carolina Now Legislative Week in Review. It's been a busy week in Raleigh at the General Assembly. We'll begin in the Senate, where that chamber has passed legislation to investigate and craft a new North Carolina energy exploration policy. Senate Republicans argued this week that our state's economy is in need of oil and natural gas exploration. Democrats say there are new reports out showing there aren't as many gas deposits as originally estimated. Senate Republicans and Democrats spent the week disagreeing over proposed North Carolina energy exploration policy. The Republicans say their Democratic colleagues have a do-nothing plan.
And the policy that we have from above is we don't open the Alaska pipeline. We don't put any offshore drilling. We don't go after the shale gas deposits. And we still depend on foreign oil. And one day, my friend, we're going to see $8 and $10 a gallon gasoline because we have no policy and no ideas and no plan.
Senate Minority Whip Josh Stein counters that North Carolina doesn't feature a wealth of qualified energy exploration experts. So if and when any new jobs come to North Carolina, they'll be filled by out-of-state workers.
This bill has been presented to us as a jobs bill. Well, the only jobs that will be created in the next decade will be the consultants hired by the Mining and Energy Commission to write these regulations.
The Senate-backed bill would create a Mining and Exploration Commission featuring energy industry and state officials. It would craft energy exploration policy and could control output to match market demand. The bill would authorize natural gas fracking, but require that lawmakers take additional action before any permits could be issued. Republican Senator Bob Rucho is the bill's architect. You changed a few things from earlier this week. Number one, did you change the makeup of who would sit on what used to be the Oil and Gas Board would now be a Mining and Energy Commission?
Well, it was the Mining Board before.
Mining Board.
And what we did is we've given them mining responsibilities, and a lot of folks believe that drilling is part of mining, so Mining and Energy Commission will take over the responsibility, not only to do the mining, which they normally would do, but to come up with the rules and regulations of the best business practices in an environmentally safe and efficient manner. And we're very excited about this first step. Now, of course, it has to pass the House, and we have worked with Representative Gillespie, Representative Hager, both of which are very supportive of this bill, and I believe the Speaker is. So I'm very excited about the possibilities. There may be some tweaking, as would normally have, but in general, we're on board, and they're on board.
This bill is written so that you can wiggle a little bit with the Republican leadership in the House if you need to.
That is correct.
Democrats were saying there should be no hurry on fracking. You've got years to get this done. Why do it now?
Well, I mean, that same philosophy 20 years ago, had we done things with oil and gas, we wouldn't have the problems we have today about $4 and $4.28 per gallon for diesel fuel. It's a very short-sighted. It shows no leadership, and yet we have a serious problem. We need to act, and we're acting now to get the ball rolling. All this does is establishes the rules and regulations of the best business practice with a environmental consideration and a business consideration. So it'll be 2 years before we get this back to us for final approval of the General Assembly. And then once we approve that, then the process goes forward for exploration to determine whether we have sufficient gas reserves within our jurisdiction to warrant private investment.
Does the state determine how much will be down underneath the ground, or will it be private industry will come to you and say, we have located a spot that will be worth our time to try to drill?
Well, we would rather have them come and tell us that they have that, because that means they've invested the money in seismic imaging and things of that sort. I've spoken with the DENR people and other people, and what we are going to do is, if our water table or aquifers are different than anywhere else, we want to know that, and then we want to know what is the best practice to accomplish that without compromising the quality of the water. bar none. There is no give on that.
Is no option, is a no answer ultimately part of the equation of this? Could a best practice be? We don't frack in North Carolina.
Well, if best practice says that North Carolina is geologically not sound for this, then we need to know about it. But unless you look at it, there's no way of determining that. And, you know, for people to say, well, let's go ahead and study it. Well, what part do we study? Do we study the seismic stuff or the horizontal drilling stuff or the hydrofracking, or how do we take care of it when it's empty and we cover it over? You have to look at it in a very comprehensive manner, but sequentially taking step by step until you have what is the state-of-the-art best business practice. And that's the right way you solve big problems.
Looking at the makeup of this commission that you will be creating, a lot of the seats go to people with experience in mining and oil exploration. I'm hearing jobs may have to be imported for a while because North Carolinians don't know how to drill for oil, don't know how to frack for gas. Do you look out of state to create this commission, or must it be within the state borders to find folks who know what's going on?
Well, there are a lot of and I've received numerous letters for people that have been involved in shale gas exploration and production, saying, well, you know, I lived there, I did it, but I moved to North Carolina to retire or something. So we have a lot of great expertise here, but that doesn't limit it with this board, because we have 50 years of looking at all the positives and negatives that have occurred, and if we find that there were problems on a certain situation, we have contingencies in place by this commission, not by legislators. We don't know the process, but these experts will. And therefore, when that comes forward, it will be state-of-the-art.
Senator Rucho, thanks for being on the show again.
Thank you.
During Thursday's Senate floor debate, Senator Harris Blake called fracking a possible economic game changer for counties sitting on gas deposits.
If we have enough natural gas in Lee, Moore, Chatham, maybe some other counties, it will change the dynamics of economics in the state of North Carolina.
But the Democrats say there are still too many environmental questions hanging out there. Number one, water tables could be threatened by fracking and drilling down. They say there should be no hurry because exploration may be 2 decades in the coming.
And surely to goodness, the major companies that will be doing this don't want to do it if there's a chance they're going to damage the aquifers in the state. And we owe it to them, and we owe it to the citizens to make sure that we know what we're doing over the long term.
The 29-19 vote ends the Senate debate, but opens debate in the House, which holds the legislation and the attention of environmentally minded representatives like Guilford County's Pricey Harrison. Here we are, fracking is a big bill for the environment. Is there any chance environmentalists and environmentally conscious legislators like yourself will say, I can swallow this fracking bill and accept this policy in this state?
Well, I actually had been working with Representative Gillespie to come up with what we thought was a compromise proposal that would have kept the ban on horizontal drilling in place, that would have left DENR to do more studies, and that would have had DENR retain oversight for the development of the regulations. But the bill that's come out of the Senate doesn't resemble that at all. You hear this idea of we're talking this to death. It's a train that's moving sort of idea. Why is that approach not flying in the Senate right now? Well, this is the thing. There's no reason we need to rush. For one thing, we don't know the nature or the quality of the resource. We do know that it's about a 5-year supply. We also know that industry won't be down here for another 20 years to get at it, so there's no rush to legalize fracking. We know that DENR is not equipped right now to develop the regulations to protect us. There's no good state model. It's exempt from all kinds of federal regulations. So I think there are a lot of us who would urge some caution. I keep hearing this 20-year window before the first company shows up in this state. Where is that coming from? I think that's based on the industry's own estimates. That's what I've seen. They'll work themselves over to North Carolina at some point, right. But are there more shallow wells in other states? Or? Well, I think the hierarchy of the resources. We're in the lower end because apparently ours are more difficult to get to, located closer to drinking water resources, more problematic, not as deep and as rich as the Marcellus Shale resources. When critics of this bill say we can wait or we don't have to approve fracking right now, does that mean you delay the fight over whether or not to frack for 20 years, or would you be accepting of it once the hierarchy of resources reaches North Carolina? Well, I think the point is if we thought that it could be done safely and protects the environment and the public health, I think there really isn't much objection to fracking. But there's no evidence of that right now, and we know we're not equipped to protect the resource as we need to. So I think that a lot of us think that if Diener had the time and the staff, but we keep cutting their resources so they don't really have adequate staff to develop this plan, I just think that most of us feel like there's no rush right now, that if we had more time to study exactly where and when and how we should be drilling, that it would come up. I think the technology will continue to advance as it is right now as we speak. So I think that's why we would like to wait.
This bill creates or reinstitutes a mining commission with an energy commission component to it. Earlier, it was dominated by folks with experience in oil and gas exploration. Now it's, from my count, balanced. Environmental or state officials with people in the industry. Do you like that balance? Is that acceptable to you?
Well, I don't think it's exactly balanced. I think 7 of the 9 voting members represent industry. Okay, they're 5 ex officio, but they don't vote. And those would presumably be the folks that would sort of put a different spin on how we should be drafting regulations. But when you have folks in charge of writing the regulations that's going to ultimately affect your bottom line, there's a lack of objectivity, I think, that gives a lot of folks concern.
Does this bill open the door to exploring the opportunity to possibly frack or drill offshore for oil, which has been swamped away by this natural gas exploration policy? Is this bill about finding out if it can be done, or will it be done, and these are the people who will draw the rules to do it?
I believe it's the latter. I believe that's the indications we're getting from the proponents, that we're going to be having fracking in the state in 2 years. That's how it was presented by the folks who have been the proponents of the bill. I think they see this as a jobs opportunity. The Diener report indicated there were maybe 380 jobs possibly coming with the industry. We've determined that many of those will be coming from out of state because we don't really have an expertise in extracting resources here. So I think that's the rush, is that it's perceived as an energy jobs bill.
Representative Pricey Harrison, thanks for being on.
Well, I appreciate your having me.
The Senate Finance Committee is holding legislation that could allow the concealed carry of firearms inside bars and restaurants. It's a bill that passed the House in 2011 and has been picked up in the Senate for 2012. A person with a concealed carry permit could legally bring their weapon inside the bar or restaurant as long as they don't consume alcoholic beverages. Restaurant and bar owners would be permitted to ban concealed weapons from their premises. This legislation also contains some language that will forbid felons from legally purchasing electric weapons or similar devices that can be used as weapons. This bill sits in the Senate Finance Committee. A North Carolina judge ruled earlier this spring that racial bias has existed in capital offense trials statewide, at least in terms of juries. It led to a condemned inmate's sentence being reduced from death to life without parole. Conservatives believe a statewide labeling of every capital case jury is too broad, and that such claims of racial bias should be locally focused and locally researched by defense attorneys. It sparked a new effort at changing the Racial Justice Act. A House Judiciary Committee took up legislation this week to reform North Carolina's Racial Justice Act. A new amendment would narrow the parameters for how condemned inmates can argue racial bias was a factor in them receiving a death sentence. The new parameters will be based on location of trial and time frame of trial and conviction.
The location would be in the county or the prosecutorial district, and the time period would be on line 19 to 20, from the date that is 24 months prior to the commission of the offense to the date that is 24 months after the imposition of the death sentence.
Opponents of the bill say this amendment will gut the Racial Justice Act. Ty Hunter of the Center for Death Penalty Litigation says the amended bill attacks a judge's recent ruling that juror selection in capital cases has been racially biased statewide for 2 decades.
You're deciding, we found out we have 20-year history of intentional discrimination in jury selection in capital cases. Oh, let's turn our backs away and make it so that nobody else can litigate that. That's the answer.
Democratic Representative Earlene Parman supports the Racial Justice Act, but she concedes the votes are likely in the House to pass this bill, possibly with veto-proof majority.
North Carolina continues to go backwards when we will knowingly allow racial discrimination in our criminal justice system.
There is an expectation among some House members that this new Racial Justice Act reform bill, with the amendment, could hit the House floor early next week for a possible vote. The House approved giving state lawmakers control over any sale of the Dorothea Dix Hospital grounds. Legislators say if the Dix Hill closing and future sale cannot be stopped, they can involve themselves with dispersing the proceeds to assist North Carolina's mental health program.
By requiring a vote of the members of the General Assembly, the people of North Carolina can be assured that the state received a fair value for this property should it ever be sold or leased.
The bill heads to the Senate next. The House easily passed a eugenics compensation bill earlier this week. It would pay people who were involuntarily sterilized by a state board's order between the years 1933 and 1974. A House majority said reparations are the right thing to do. Opponents say and believe that using current taxpayers' money to compensate for a previous generation's mistakes is in itself a mistake. The House gave its final approval to a plan that would pay survivors of North Carolina's former state eugenics program. The proposal to pay each living victim $50,000 survived amendment attempts and maintained support from both GOP House leaders and longtime Democratic backers.
We had elected officials and leaders who had the audacity to think that they knew what the great race was, and that they would actually exercise the absolute power of government to take away a God-given right that you have.
From 1933 to 1974, state officials could order mandatory sterilization of private citizens through the state eugenics board.
But it was the state that did these awful things to these people without their permission, without their knowledge, and sometimes because of ignorance displayed by a lot of other folks.
Estimates vary widely as to how many survivors of involuntary sterilization procedures exist, or if they would come forward to stake their claim to reparations.
We don't know who they are. There may be more than the couple hundred, 150 or so that have identified themselves. As I said, there may be a couple of thousand. But whoever they are, they need compensation. We owe it to them.
Eugenics program victims must have been living on May 16, 2012 to receive compensation. Deceased eugenics victims' families do not have a claim. While the House passed the bill by a near 2-to-1 margin, critics stood their ground. They said modern-day North Carolinians have committed no wrongs and should not pay for previous generations' mistakes.
We got eugenics versus taxpayers. We're punishing people for something they had nothing to do with. I don't think that is right.
So we're going to take the pot of money that we think that we can afford, and we're going to divide it among the 2 or 3%. And a lot of people are going to leave here feeling better that we've righted a wrong, that we've really done something. And I just don't quite see that.
The bill sits in the Senate where its fate is unclear as lawmakers make moves to set an adjournment date. Utility and roadside work crews will soon be protected by North Carolina's Move Over law. Under existing law, highway drivers in multi-lane highways must shift one lane away from police traffic stops if it's safely possible. The expanded law means we drivers will be changing lanes for power, cable, telephone, and natural gas company crews beginning October 1st. The Senate is considering a House bill to seize vehicles of drivers repeatedly caught driving with no license. This is essentially a 3 strikes type of proposal, but judges would hold the final say over whether a defendant's car would be seized.
But we're talking about trying to fix people who don't have a driver's license and they don't care. They drive anyway.
The bill originally passed the House back in May 2001. A new gaming compact allowing live card and dice games at Harrah's Cherokee Casino is now approved. The House passed the compact and Governor Perdue signed it Thursday afternoon. The House debate pitted lawmakers who cited jobs creation potential versus opponents who say live card dealing is bad for society. The final major debate over allowing live card dealers at the Cherokee Casino was held on the House floor this week.
And this bill basically, for the most part, exchanges a machine for a person with a job. It creates economic development. It brings in excess of 1 million more tourists a year to North Carolina that will spend money for other reasons.
Supporters say the new gaming compact with the Cherokee will boost the western North Carolina economy. First, it will provide jobs for non-Cherokee, increase state revenue, and provide more financial support for the Cherokee Nation. But opponents see a negative societal impact coming from live cards being dealt instead of video games being played.
What we're moving the state incrementally, not in one fell swoop, but incrementally, we're moving North Carolina into becoming the state of gambling. And all you've got to do is go into your towns, into your cities, look around you, see the proliferation that's going on to see if what I'm saying isn't true.
Representative Edgar Starnes says tweaking gambling rules for the Cherokee will ripple across the state.
We're getting ready to make a major change in the gambling laws in North Carolina, and gambling is going to be expanded in ways that we never would have dreamed of just a few years ago.
Representative Roger West represents Cherokee County and 4 whole counties in western North Carolina, and you took to the House floor and gave a speech about the benefits of this bill. But I'll ask you, what's changed in politics that social conservatives now stand up, give the impassioned plea that this will cause problems throughout North Carolina, and yet not even muster half of what the supporters voted to pass this compact?
Well, it's not going to cause problems all over North Carolina. It's going to be only legal on the Cherokee Indian Reservation. Is it that
Isolated out there that when they say it's going to spread and we're going to see a different face of North Carolina, that doesn't fly with you at all?
No, sir. Most people don't even know where this area is located in the state.
Where is it actually? I know it's out west, but it's way out there if you live in the eastern part of North Carolina, right?
The reservation's actually in Jackson County and it's part of Swain County.
Now, say there isn't gaming out west and say this deal doesn't go through or didn't go through, what else out there drives the economy, particularly in that location of North Carolina?
Tourism. The Great Smoky Mountain National Park draws a lot of people, and we have other tourist attractions, and we're pretty dependent on tourism.
On the statistic that you offered on the floor, what I said, you were saying 80% of the local jobs could be non-Cherokee, folks from outside the nation coming in to go to work. I'm reading $90 million over 30 years, the term of this compact. Where'd those numbers come from? Is that a fair estimate? Is it a solid, concrete statistic? How should you feel about those numbers? Best case, worst case?
82% is the number, and I think it's close. You know, you can't say, but what you've got to look at, those jobs will have to come off the reservation because a lot of the members of the tribe over there are elderly people, and they're just not the people to work in the casino, so the jobs will have to come off the reservation.
Some people may think that the new job creation might be simply card dealers. How much does it ripple out throughout a casino to add the live gaming element?
Well, you have to have a lot of supervisory people in that. You have to have pit bosses. You have to have different people scattered out through the casino. It will not only be dealers.
What changes about putting money into a video terminal versus sliding your chips across to a dealer and having a pit boss stand there and watch a game as you play it?
I think it's more of a gamble that way than it is with a video machine. You talk about problems, gambling problems. To me, you would have more gambling problems with a machine than you do when you have supervision.
Why do you think that?
Well, they're trained to spot problems. They have oversight. They have a pit boss that watches over them. And they're trained to spot people with addictions, and they try to address their problems.
Now, as part of the compact, and I'm sure you're well familiar with all the nuances of it, and there were some questions about what do you do about people who have a problem gambling and go in there. Can the Cherokee ask people to leave? Can they ban them from the casino if it gets out of hand? They see someone self-destructing?
Yes, they can ban you from being in the casino.
For your own self-behavior?
For whatever.
Now, looking ahead on this, you do have video terminals in North Carolina that are operating in a gray area, and for 100 years or more, there's been poker games all throughout rural North Carolina that no one busts and wealthy men play. When is the time appropriate to look at gambling in North Carolina and say there may be room for it out there for the other 100 counties?
Well, I don't know about that. I'm only concerned about the western end of the state.
Well, good answer, but would you be open to expanded gaming and not trying to ban it everywhere but the Cherokee?
I would have to look at it. Probably I wouldn't be for it.
On the grounds of what? What's different about the Cherokee?
We already had gaming in the western end of the state. We already had gaming on the reservation. This wasn't to start gaming. We already had gaming. They're authorized under the Indian Act to do that, and I look at it differently than I would be opening it up statewide.
All right, Representative West, appreciate you coming on talking about this compact.
Thank you for having me.
Senate leaders filed legislation setting an end date to the 2012 legislative session. A joint Senate resolution declares Tuesday, June 19th, as that chamber's adjournment day. It would end the 2011-2012 session of the General Assembly for the senators and does not call for any additional special sessions. But that date is subject to change. The House Education Committee easily approves allowing all educator associations access to teachers and teachers' physical and electronic mailboxes on school campuses. Senator Tommy Tucker says the major education groups approved this equal access provision. All educator associations would be allowed to communicate with public school teachers and attend new teacher orientations. It opens the doors, actually, for newer education groups that are working in North Carolina now.
This will allow the North Carolina Classroom Teachers Association, the North Carolina Professional Teachers Association equal access as other educational associations enjoy within the state.
The bill would prevent schools from endorsing associations and discouraging teachers from joining any particular teachers group. Find our show page this weekend on Facebook. Easy to remember address, facebook.com/legweek. We're also on Twitter. Our name on Twitter is @NCNLegweek. And you can visit our show page, unctv.org/legweek. Thank you so much for watching. We hope to see you next time.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.